Welcome to today's broadcast of North Idaho College Public Forum. The crew is comprised of NIC television students, and your moderator is North Idaho College political scientist Tony Stewart.
Our topic today is success in business, and I have invited to the program a person who is an excellent example of that success. I would like to welcome to the program Coeur d'Alene realtor Marshal Mann. His background will certainly indicate that he is qualified to discuss this topic. First of all, in 3 of the last 4 years, he has been Coeur d'Alene's #1 realtor with sales totaling either over $4 or in one case $5.5 million for the year. In addition to that, his credentials are most impressive as success in the field by pointing out that 2 of the last 3 years, he has been the #1 realtor for Better Homes in the United States for the most transactions in those years. In addition to his work and business and his success with his occupation, I would have to testify that Marshal Mann is a very involved community person or community service. I do not have time to list all of those successes and involvements, but here are a few. He is a member of the executive board of the Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations, and that organization has received national attention and recently won the Raul Wallingberg Award. He is also a member of the board of directors of the Children's Village. That is an organization or a private corporation that is in the process of building a village for children who need a home or need attention for a period of time, and he's involved in the finances of that organization. He is also chairman of the Idaho Association of Realtors Equal Rights Committee, and I want to recognize the fact that he's been able to get a human rights symbol that has appeared on the real estate literature and Coeur d'Alene, and I think he's getting that now done at the state level, that indicates that Idaho is for people of all races and all religions and all colors. He has also been very supportive at the college where we are, and has been supportive of our lecture series and symposiums in conjunction with the task force. Marshall, I want to first welcome you to the program, and I want to publicly thank you for all the support that you've given to me and to our organization with our lectures and also what you're doing for the community.
Well, thank you, Tony.
And I'm happy to welcome to the program to assist a regular member of our panel, Steve Shink, who is Director of Informational Services and the Director of the Foundation, which is a private corporation in support of North Idaho College. At this time, I will ask Steve Shink to commence the questioning.
Marshall, you're the premier performer in what I would guess is one of the most competitive businesses in Coeur d'Alene and in Kootenai County, and managed to maintain that level of success even during a period when the real estate business is certainly not at a historic high. I think it might be interesting for our viewers to know, and at least I believe that this is the case, that you weren't always in the real estate business and you haven't always been as successful as you are today. Could you share a little bit of your background with us?
Sure. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I was born and raised there. I'm a real Californian, not one of those just passing through that moved up here. I was in the wholesale meat business down there, and my business was faltering back in 1973. My partner and I had a couple of employees, and we had to lay somebody off. And we looked at everything, and we finally figured out who we should lay off, and it was me. And from there I went into the direct sales business of steaks and seafood. That was in 1973. And that's when I learned to be a salesperson. And I studied the sales profession and practiced it. I worked a lot and learned a little every day. And my education I got on the freeways of Los Angeles via the cassette recorder and cassette tapes.
Is there, I don't want to get you into a commercial plug here, but is there a particular brand of commercial tape that you used?
No, cassette tapes, there's all kinds and all kinds of different companies. One of the best companies around is Nightingale Conant, and all you got to do is call up 800 information, and then they'll give you the 800 number and ask for their catalog, and they've got all kinds of tapes. But I've listened to all kinds of people, and there are all kinds of tapes available, everything from Zig Ziglar to Norman Vincent Peale to Dr. Robert Schuller, to Dr. Wayne Dyer. Everything as far as self-image and motivation and sales. I've got probably the equivalent of a double doctorate in sales and probably a triple doctorate in motivation and self-image.
There are a lot of people out there who package success, who market it, who've enjoyed some success themselves, and try to convince others that they have the key and that they can share that with them for a fee. And maybe that works for some people, maybe it doesn't. Obviously, you got some commercial help in your success story. But have you developed a philosophy? Do you think there's a key? Is there something simple that you could tell other people that if they'll do, they can achieve the same kind of success you've had?
I think number one, you need to expect the best, and then you need to work to get the best and put the time in. People say you have to pay the price for success, and I don't really believe that. I think you really have to enjoy the price besides paying it. You pay the price, but you enjoy the price. The best part about success is becoming successful, is in the becoming, not of the getting. Once you get there and you made your goal, then what's left? And so far I haven't made my goals. I'm not even close.
Marshall, I want to pick up where Steve left off. He certainly opened that door, and you've indicated that how one feels about themselves, the kind of image that they perceive that they have, and certainly we're getting into positive thinking, that you have to be very positive and not negative when you approach your goals and what you want to do. With that in mind, I'd like for you to elaborate somewhat more by indicating that as we look at different occupations and individuals in those, at least, and I do this with some caution because we have a value system that makes the determination of what we consider success. But what we think is success and what appears to be successful, some people succeed more than others in their occupation. And based upon that, what are some of the other factors other than feeling good about yourself and believing you can do it that leads to success? Or is it all wrapped up in that package?
No. Well, first of all, I believe that success is being happy with yourself, with where you are and where you're going. Okay? It has nothing to do with money. Money sometimes accompanies success, but we know a lot of people who don't have very much money and yet are super successful. And you see people all the time that are that way and that are considered successes by other people. To me, you need to have a positive mental attitude. I think that's probably one of the most important things. And you have to have a real good attitude about life itself. See, it's not really important what happens to you in life. The most important thing is how you react to what happens to you. And that's basically attitude. There was a story about a shoe salesman who was sent to Africa to sell shoes. And this was years ago, so they sent him over by boat. And the boat pulled up to the dock, the ramp went down, he went down the ramp, he looked around at all the people on the dock, he went to the first payphone he saw, picked up the phone, called the company and says, "Get me out of here." He says, "Nobody over here wears shoes." About 6 months later, another shoe company sent a salesman to Africa to sell shoes. He went over on the same boat. He walked down the same ramp. He looked around that same dock, saw the people on the dock, went to the first payphone he saw, picked up the phone, called the company, says, "Send me all the shoes you got." He says, "Nobody over here has shoes."
Okay.
It's not what happens to you, it's how we react to what happens. Some people see problems, some people see opportunities.
Well, you're indicating, too, that it's important to be creative and to, with that attitude, and say, I can see a way of dealing with this problem or the obstacle that I have here in the example you gave. I have another question before I return to Steve. Let us suppose that I am starting a company and I have some capital, but that I don't have any experience or background, and I have an idea of what I'd like to do. And if I came to you, and based on someone who's been in some different businesses and success you've had now and what you're doing, and I ask you for advice, what would you tell me to do first? I know you'd have to know what kind of business I want to go in and where my locality would be and so forth, but just from a general way that would apply at different places in the country, different kind of business. And I asked my friend Marshall to give me a list of things to do or things to avoid. What are some of the things that you would put on that list?
I would say probably the first thing is I would assume that you're going to be selling a product, okay?
Yes.
And I would say, number one, learn to sell your product and learn learn all about your product that you can, but more important than your product is learn how to sell. And the most important thing that you have to sell is learn how to sell yourself. Because first you sell yourself, and then they buy your product. And that would be probably the biggest thing. And I would say to study every day. Either if you're a reader, read. If you're not a reader, listen to tapes. And listen to them over and over and over again. It's repetition with cassette tapes is just like magic. Just goes right into the old subconscious, and you just do it automatically.
Steve Shink.
Marshall, how many hours do you work a week?
All of them. I work 24 hours a day, 8 days a week. My mind is always thinking about real estate. I love the real estate business. Wherever I am, I think about real estate. It's not a job. I haven't worked since I've been in North Idaho. I've been on vacation. This is just nothing but fun.
All right, now tell me, it's nothing but fun for you. I'll play the devil's advocate here for a little while. What about your wife and kids? They
That's
love the
a
real
different
estate
story.
business
They
too?
don't love the real estate business as much as I do. They think maybe I should not love it quite as much as I do, and maybe that I should take a little more time off. And that's a problem I have. I got a great wife, great kids, and my son is in college now. He's away, but my daughter is still at home. She'll graduate high school this year, and in fact, she's coming to NIC.
Wonderful. You work hard at your business, obviously, and you enjoy it. I think that's a key to success for everybody. Do you think you work a little smarter than maybe the competition does? You
There's
obviously study your business a lot.
I study the sales business. There are a lot of people that know more about real estate than I do. A whole lot more about real estate. I know, and I study real estate, and I'm not saying that I don't know it, but there's a lot of people that know it better than I do. But it's dealing with people is the part that I really practice, and I think that's important. And I believe that we need to give our customers the best of everything and treat them right. We have to go the extra mile. We have to give them more than what they pay for. And service is the answer. But you take care of your customers, and your customers will take care of you. And that's what I learned when I was selling box steaks and seafood, and it works the same way in real estate. Zig Ziglar says, you can get everything in life you want if you help enough other people get what they want. And that's the truth. It really, really works.
Let me go back again. You talked about we talked a little bit about motivation. You talked about playing motivational tapes and other messages over and over again. I hear that every morning when you get up and you're shaving, that you've got one of those motivational tapes on and you're listening to it. Do you still need to hear that message even after all these years?
Well, it's not always a motivational tape. Sometimes it's an educational tape. But I listen to at least 1 or 2 tapes a day, every day. And, sometimes on real estate, sometimes motivation, sometimes self-image. But yeah, I always need that stuff. It's good for us. And we see different things about ourselves. We have different situations that come up all the time. Sometimes we get to re-examine ourselves.
Marshall, I have to deal with this because you've been a friend a long time, and we've worked on a lot of things together. And I know that you're like the rest of us, that you have days that are, even though you're a very positive person, that more excitement happens than other days. And there are days when there's criticism, there's days there's opposition, and certainly because you're a community-involved person, and we work together closely in the human rights movement, we have days that are disappointing. We've had some tragedies, and you have to cope with those like the rest of us. And I've been with you in those moments as well as those that are very successful. Could you give some of our viewers some suggestions that when it is difficult and when you're unjustly criticized, let's suppose?
It's always unjust.
How do you cope with that? How do you get over those kind of difficulties to go on? Because that is not as easy as it is when everything is going well.
Well, with you, I've had a lot of criticism through the years, and I just learned to accept it. I've been criticized for a long time, and it's just, you can't let it get you down. It does, and it upsets you sometimes, and sometimes it makes you feel bad, get your feelings hurt a little bit, but you need to just keep going on. And sometimes we have problems, and we have things that go against us, like with the legislation that we had been working on that we thought we were going to get passed, and it didn't go the way we wanted. But you know what? I'm a great believer in that. I think it was Napoleon Hill who said it, but it's every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Okay? That means every time we have a problem, along with that problem is an opportunity. We have to look for the opportunities. We have to take those problems and turn them around. When life gives us lemons, we squeeze it and we make lemonade.
Okay. I'll take this one step further. You're very strong, and you've worked hard at it, but it is really correct to say that in society that everyone is not treated the same by fate. Some people have terrible tragedies, physical handicaps or accidents and so forth. Some people have, you see this in politics, they have tougher skin than others. And for those persons who are most sensitive, find defeat the most difficult to deal with. I know that you're advocating the positiveness, but do some people need to do more than others to be able to cope with some of those problems?
I think that, again, it's not what happens to you that's important, it's how you react to what happens to you that's most important. One of my favorite people is Muhammad Ali. Not for the fighter that he is, or that he was, but for the philosopher that he is and for the things he said. One of the greatest things I ever heard him say was when he lost his title. And they took away his title from him. He didn't lose it, they took it away from him. And he lost everything, he had nothing left. And what he said was, that's okay, he says, all I have to do is start all over again. And you know what? We all have that ability to start all over again. The most fun in life, when you think back and you look on your life, is when you were starting out. When you first got married, when you first started your job, when you first started your business. Those were the fun times. You know, they're still the fun times. Some people are lucky they get to have those fun times over and over again. Okay? To be successful, you only have to win once. You can lose 100 times. Just win one time and you're successful. And I lose a lot of times. One of the reasons that I'm as successful as I am is that I fail a lot more times than my competition fails. My numbers are probably the same. I just go out and just do more.
And you don't spend time talking about the failures, you talk about the successes.
Absolutely.
Okay, Steve Sheen.
Marshall, I'm not surprised that you're a fan of Muhammad Ali, because I think you share some maybe some strengths or some philosophies. In addition to being a great boxer, he was also a great fight promoter, and what he promoted best was himself. Observing you as I have over the past couple of years, in addition to working hard, which we've covered, and motivation, which we've covered, you do a better job of marketing Marshal Mann and promoting Marshal Mann, I think, than most other realtors do in this town, promoting themselves. Tell us a little bit about that.
First of all, Muhammad Ali and I do have something in common. He's pretty, but he's not as pretty as me. When I was selling steaks and seafood, I listened to a motivational speaker. I was in San Diego and at the Winter Circle Breakfast. It was put on by Terry Cole Whitaker. And the speaker there was Mark Victor Hansen. And he was speaking on motivation. And we got to talking after he was done, and he wanted to have some of my steaks, and I wanted some of his tapes. So we worked a deal, and I traded him some steaks for tapes. Well, he wanted more steaks than he had tapes, so he had this set of real estate tapes. And he said, I'll give you these set of real estate tapes. I said, so what am I going to do with that? He says, listen to him. He says, maybe you'll learn something, and then sell them to some guy in a real estate office. So I said, okay, and I made the trade, and I listened to tapes. Well, I never did sell that set of tapes. I still haven't. And he had in there one thing. He said, put your name everywhere you can, and put your picture everywhere you can. And when people think about real estate, they should think about you. And when I came to town, and when I started in the real estate business, and I knew nothing about real estate, zero, that's what I did. I put my name on top of the signs, and I got my name in many places as I could. I wanted to put it up in the ladies' restroom, but they wouldn't let me. And then he said, put your picture on everything. And I put my picture on my business card. I put it on little notepads that I give away. I put it on my my envelopes, and put my picture everywhere I can. One day, I was buying these little riders for my sign, and I found out how much the signs cost. Well, the signs only cost about twice as much as a rider, and that gave me the opportunity to put my picture on the sign. And I think I'm the first person, at least the first person that I know about, to ever put his picture on a real estate sign. And I got a lot of criticism for it. Everybody said big ego, and came down with all that stuff. And I do have a big ego, but that wasn't the reason I put the picture on the real estate sign. The reason I put the picture on the real estate sign is Mark Victor Hansen said, you put your picture everywhere you can. Wherever they see you, they know, when they think about real estate, they should think about Marshal Mann. And that's exactly the reason that I did it.
A smart person once said that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. We've got Marshal Mann, who is one of the most successful, if not the most successful realtor in this area, and yet I don't see anyone else putting pictures on real estate signs or on matchbook covers or on business cards, etc. I'm not sure I understand that.
There's a lady in Billings, Montana that's doing it, and she will be very successful. She's starting out real good. There's one fellow that works for Century 21. Century 21, the big companies, a lot of them will not let you change your sign. And Century 21 wouldn't, but there's a fellow at Century 21 that took it and put it on his rider. But it's a little picture. And so there is one person who did, but it's...
Could be a trend that'll sweep
I guess,
the country.
and true, there's not as many people, I guess, as pretty as I am. But maybe that's the reason.
One might say also that the fact that you did that, you got some comments in the newspaper, and so it feeds on itself, so that just gave you more publicity. I'm sure you didn't mind that fact that your name was there again for advertising purposes. Marshall, you also have another little unique technique that you use, and that is you have a limousine, and that comes into play. Would you tell us how you fit that into your business and why you do that?
When I was a kid growing up in Los Angeles, we used to see limousines every once in a while. They weren't like they are today. There weren't tons and tons of them down there. But I was always impressed with those, and I always wanted to get a limousine. And when I saw this, up here we need front-wheel drive, when I saw this little Chrysler limousine that came out, I said, that's for me. This is something that I need to get. Not just because I wanted it for me, but I thought, what a terrific way to take people out and show real estate to. And so I believe that my customers deserve the very best, my clients deserve the very best. What better way to take them out to show them real estate than to take them out in a limousine? And they deserve the best, I'm going to give it to them.
Okay. Now let's get into something else that I wanted to talk about, and that has to do with community service. In addition to your work in business, you do give an awful lot of your hours of your day and the week to organizations. I mentioned some at the beginning, such as the Children's Village and the Human Rights Task Force. And with the problems we've had in the Northwest, that task force and others have done a lot of things. I'd like to hear some of your philosophy, why you believe all citizens should involve themselves in public service and community service, which does take some hours away from either the family or from your business, but it's another part of life.
I believe we need to pay our dues, for living on this earth, for living in this country, for living in this area. We live in probably the nicest area, as far as I'm concerned, in the world. I looked at a lot of places before I decided to come to Coeur d'Alene, and this is it. We have great people up here. We have a lot of need, and we have a lot of opportunity. And when I leave this world, I would like to have it a better place than when I came into it. The only thing we can take with us when we leave this earth is that which we've given away. And I believe in giving. The fellow that taught me about giving was Robert Schuller, a fellow that's on television on the Hour of Power Sunday mornings. And he's also a possibility thinker. And but one of the things he taught me, he was preaching a sermon one time on giving, and I really got into it, and he sold me. And the more you give, and the reason he sold me, I was a little selfish at that time. This goes back quite a few years. He said, the more you give, the more you get. He said that, he used an example. He says, you have a little shovel, and you dig in and you give to the Lord. And the Lord has a big shovel, and he digs in and he gives back to you, but he gives back a whole lot more than you give him. And that's the truth. It's been that way, ever since I started giving. The more I give, the more I get. It just keeps coming back. You cannot give away enough.
Steve Sheen.
Marshall, I have a feeling that real estate's sort of a barometer for the economic vitality of a community. We've been in a little bit of a slump lately, I know, but nothing breeds success like success, they say, and I have to believe that maybe we're beginning to see a period where lots of businesses are going to prosper in this area. Is the real estate market leading the way in that?
The real estate market has not been terrible. It has not been, great. It's nothing like it is in Los Angeles or like it is in Boston or like it is in San Francisco. We have a soft real estate market here. It's a buyer's market. So this is a time to buy real estate, not the time to sell real estate. I see this area getting a whole lot better in the I shouldn't say the near future, within the next 5 years. And I think the next 2 years, I don't think we're going to see a lot of big improvement. But after the next 2 years, we need to bring business into the area. That's the main thing that we're lacking right now is business. And we have got to do everything we can to bring business into the area. Now we have a new organization that started that quite a few of the community leaders are supporting.
Jobs Plus.
Jobs Plus. And I think that organization is going to do it. They're going to raise $1 million to promote Coeur d'Alene and to bring business into Coeur d'Alene. And I just feel real confident that that's going to work.
Ups and downs notwithstanding, Marshal Mann's going to stay in the real estate business.
Ups and downs notwithstanding, Marshal Mann is going to be in the real estate business, and Marshal Mann, with ups and downs, will be very, very successful. It doesn't matter what kind of a market you have, whether you're in a total depression or if you're in super good times. You can always do good if you give good service and go the extra mile. You will always be successful if you have a good attitude and expect to do good. It's the high expectations that do it. There were a lot of people who made money during the Depression, and there were a lot of people that starved to death. Okay? The ones that made money expected to make money, and the ones that starved to death. I mean, but you get what you expect.
Marshal, also, we don't have much time left, but I read an article recently in a national magazine that indicated that service has gone down. You don't get the kind of service you used to, and you're kind of referring to that now as you're a customer and you're going into the different businesses. I don't want to try to identify any particular one because it's across the board, but that the customer has to do a lot of the things themselves that used to be done by the business itself. What's caused this decline in service?
What's caused the decline in service? There are a lot of discount stores that can't afford to give service. I think you lose some service there. You don't have the mom and pop operation. You used to deal with the owner in small businesses, and the owner will always give more than the employee. And for an employee to become successful, he has to think like he's the owner of the store when he's waiting on somebody. And when the employee starts thinking like that, that's when the employee becomes successful in that business or in life. And employees have to learn that. The owners of the businesses have to go back to giving more service. What can I do? And the best example on giving service, I would say, in service business, probably Nordstrom's.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt. We're out of time, and I wish we had more time. It's been stimulating, and I thank you for being with us and being our guest today very much, Marshal.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest has been Marshal Mann. We've been talking about success in business, and we hope you've enjoyed the program. I want to invite you to be with us again next week at the same time. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
North Idaho College Public Forum can be seen at the same time each week over this station. This production was videotaped earlier by an NIC student crew for viewing at this more appropriate time.